everybody to the Tuesday, October 17, 2017 meeting of the City of Ann Arbor Park Advisory Commission. It's just after 4 p.m. and we're here in Council Chambers at City Hall. Colin, would you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Jackson.
Here.
Commissioner Gallardi. Commissioner Santa Croce.
Here.
Commissioner Morrison.
Here.
Commissioner Kraut.
Here. Commissioner
Borsdorf.
Here.
Commissioner Ramaswamy. Commissioner London.
Here.
Commissioner Apple.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Excellent, thank you. You have item B, approval of the agenda. You have before you the agenda. Any proposed changes, additions, subtractions, corrections? Hearing none, we'll move on. Item C, public commentary, limited to 3 minutes per speaker. Is there any member of the public who would like to speak? Please step forward and state your name.
If I speak like this, can you hear me? Is the
We can.
microphone working?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. My name's Ethel Potts, 1014 Elder Boulevard. I think the train station item is the one I'm interested in. I think the train station is designed for Fuller Park will have a very high visual impact on the park, and it will function to add traffic to an already very congested area. There will be major negative, not de minimis impacts on the park. There is an alternative to this. The existing train station on Depot Street needs only an inexpensive addition to enlarge the waiting room. And this would be on their own land that is right there. And the DTE land behind it will be available for parking. There are no negative impacts on anything at the depot site. On Fuller, we would be sacrificing parkland to an unknown future. There is talk of 10 train trips on the line and an assumption of an increase in ridership. Ridership has gone up and down over recent years. Will it go up in 20, 30, or 40 years? Nobody knows. There are no trends yet on ridership. And there's no sign of adding any of the 10 train trips that are being talked about. Will the extra large parking structure turn out to be a white elephant, maybe in the future used by the hospital, but it always is looking for parking? This is, building there on Fuller Road is not a de minimis impact. Thank you.
Thank you for coming. Anyone else would like to speak? Welcome.
Hi, my name's Vince Caruso, 556 Glendale Circle. I'm here to speak about the train station as well. I had asked at the last public meeting whether we could get the increased number of users of the sewer that was installed next to the trains, the Fuller Station proposed location. I did not get an answer to that. I think it's important that we find out if that sewer was put in with tree removal that may have had some issues with the environmental assessment agreement that the city entered into. The original station proposal had that sewer line noted in it, and then was pulled out and built separately. I hope this large garage or large parking garage that's proposed at Fuller is not an option for the U of M to get additional parking near the U of M hospital. I don't think we should be, as citizens of Ann Arbor, building a garage for the University of Michigan in a city park. I'd like to echo Susan Polly, director of the DDA's comments, where she said she felt the city had put their thumb on the scale for Fuller Park, that they did not consider bike and walking access, that it's not central to the downtown, There's not much opportunity for common uses, as you would see on the depot site. The buses can be rerouted that service U of M and the North Campus. There was talk that that may not be an option, but clearly buses could be rerouted. The Fuller Road station would not have much opportunity for expansion or additional use as you usually see in stations, unless, of course, we take more of the Fuller Park to do that. So if we wanted shops, coffee shops, stores, small shops in the vicinity of a station like you normally would see, Fuller doesn't really allow that because it's hemmed in by the park. I think the floodplain concerns that were raised by some people will be mitigated dramatically when we get the tunnel through the berm, the railroad berm. I was involved in many of those public meetings in discussing that tunnel, pushing for pedestrian access as well. Being in the Allen's Creek Watershed Group, we're trying to reduce flood hazard. The floodplain will drop dramatically at the Depot Street site when that tunnel is put through the berm, which I understand is almost ready to be finished design. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak? Welcome.
Thank you. I don't have much copies, but I'd like to have people get a sense of what we're talking about. Hi, my name is Rita Mitchell. I live at 621 Fifth Street, and I want to thank you all for all the attention that you pay to the parks and keeping them in the great shape that I think that they are. And I want to speak also on the proposal for the train station in Fuller Park. I am opposed to that location. I'm in favor of improving our transit and improving our train travel for everyone. I think it's a matter of scale. I sent you some comments, and I'll read just some of them. I agree that there are issues relating to the view shed that are a problem, and the photo that I gave you shows a view of the parking lot that's being used by the university right now that has some rather large lighting poles above it. And if you assume that those are, say, 30 feet, if a parking structure of 5 stories is put in there, it might be 60 feet. That's a significant block of structure in that space that will take up view shed, as we've been discussing. If there's building on top of that has been suggested in the report that's been provided, the height, who knows what that would be? We don't know. We don't know if the structure would be built in a way that would support a larger structure in the first place, similar to the situation we've gotten with the city's library lot. I think that could be a problem that needs to be addressed in a straightforward way from the start, like right now. And for those reasons, for taking up a big block of space in the park, I oppose this. I don't think that at this point in time, when we are encouraging greater density in the city and succeeding in it, as far as I know, that we should be reducing park space in the central core of Ann Arbor. And this area is considered part of the central planning area for the park system. And so if you would take out some acreage, even though it's a small amount, from that park, it is reducing the amount that's available to people in the city. And I gave you the chart from the PROS plan that shows this, that people in the central area have 4.53 acres per 1,000 people, whereas in the rest of the whole city, the acreage per person is overall, citywide, 18.32, and that includes some area outside the city. So the last thing I want to say is that the de minimis, I think, is not even an issue that you need to consider because there are two prudent and feasible options that can be used for this project. And I'd suggest that we look at those and move forward. And I believe that your job for parks is to consider the parks, not the cost issues. And so if you would just focus on what's good for the parks and the city's use of the parks, I'll appreciate that. Thank you.
Is there anyone else that'd like to speak? Welcome.
My name is Nancy Schiffler. I'm speaking on behalf of the Huron Valley Group of the Sierra Club. I sent you a statement, which I hope you received. I'm speaking again on the issue of the train station in Fuller Park, and I just want to emphasize a few things here. One is that this issue is in front of you because the location of the train station falls under Section 4F requirements because it directly and permanently uses a portion of Fuller Park south of Fuller Road and poses a constructive use of the remainder of the park on both sides of the road. The Sierra Club argues that this is not just a pro forma action on PAC's part. You have a choice in this matter and should consider it carefully. Our concerns are the project proposes to change a public land use from parkland to transportation facility. This has not been done before in Ann Arbor. Fuller Park is an essential river valley park, providing some of the remaining open viewshed of the valley. There is no way to replace this value. Increased traffic congestion for entry to the station, turn lanes, and so forth, complicates access and enjoyment of the park activities, not just on the south side of the road, but on the north side. This is a major parks activity center for biking, walking, swimming, canoeing, kayaking, and it would make that experience less safe, less enjoyable, and less healthful due to the congestion and noise increases. The environmental assessment admits that the parking structure would, quote, add new visual features to Fuller Park, but it dismisses this as not highly noticeable to park users, given the dominant multi-story U of M facility structures. So it's supposed to sort of blend in, I guess, with that. But the hospital structures are back and uphill from the park. The eye-level view of the park users would be a very noticeable parking garage. For these and many other reasons, the impact of this alternative on Fuller Park is much more than de minimis. In particular, PAC has the responsibility to consider carefully the impact on the park as a whole, not just the current surface parking lot. The resolution that you have focuses only on the surface lot and park funding issues. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that wishes to speak? Please step forward. Welcome.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is James DeMoore, and once upon a time, I served on your body. I was on the PAC from 2002 through 2003 as the Recreation Advisory Commissioner voting delegate to your group before my appointment to the Planning Commission. You've heard a couple speakers already speak about this, and I'm speaking in regard to the Fuller Road Station de Minimis proposal you have before you today. I want to share concerns that were raised regarding the precedent regarding this proposal. I'm deeply disturbed about a trend I'm seeing. Last month, City Administrator Lazarus held a special invitation forum in which the sale of city parkland was seriously broached under the auspices of fostering economic growth and development. This was the workshop that occurred on September 12th. I find that notion, and the fact that people are seriously talking about that, very disturbing. As all of you, as PAC commissioners know, our parks are for our citizens, current and the future. It is part of our collective legacy for future generations. For whatever purpose, PACs are going to constantly be subjected to a proposal to, let's repurpose this park here for this great public benefit. There's always some noble cause that's going to be put there. I think all of you need to remain steadfast to your mission of protecting Parkland. It was there for the citizens, it's there for the future. even if that particular park use may be not used for optimum value, it still nonetheless remains city parkland. I respectfully ask each of you to not concur with the de minimis decision regarding Fuller Park regards to the train station. And folks, thanks for considering my remarks today.
Thank you for coming. Is there anyone else that would like to speak? Welcome.
Good evening, PAC. Gwen Nice-Toon, 1016 Olivia, Ann Arbor. I'm going to repeat a little bit of what's been said because I think those two items, the first two items I have here, you're being asked to approve a FONSI, the finding of no significant impact. And I don't see how you can consider, here are some of the negative impacts. The first one, and it's been mentioned, to repurpose 4.7 acres of public land from parkland to transportation facility. That's taking 5 acres right out of the middle of our central park. The parks along the river are our central park. Number two, taking a parkland by this method is for the first time and would set a very unfortunate precedent. For over 100 years, we've been acquiring this parkland with the expectation that would be preserved in perpetuity for public parkland use. These are the other reasons. I think those two alone mean that you couldn't find there's no impact. A high-rise parking garage for non-park use does not fit in Fuller or any of other parks. Folks don't bring their children to look at parking garages. Parking spaces are to be built up to 1,300 and some at full build-out. They say, well, maybe they will never use that much, but they're saying, put it on the books. That's a huge increase. And combined with the over 500 buses that cross Fuller Road daily, would inevitably increase traffic congestion and greenhouse gases significantly. One mitigation proposed is that 150 spaces for parks will be included. That's a loss of 100 spaces. Will the 150 spaces be preferentially accessible to park users at ground level, do you think? This is a costly addition. Any other use, such as the depot sites, wouldn't need this extra 150 spaces. A very big element is our B2b Trail, which I think I've been here about 5 times about that, has not been completed through this section of the valley. Some dream that one day we would have bicycle boulevards and we could have trails that meet with the same as Gallup and Argo. This new increased congestion does not add to that. Sustainability of the goals of the city are not being met. That was to reduce auto use and clean air. This would increase that. Our 4.7 acres are not being considered of the true value. And finally, you need to know that the preliminary engineering does not provide how the structure will be operated. And that's essential information for you to know before it goes ahead, how this will operate. Please remember that this is valuable land.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that wishes to speak? Welcome.
Thank you. My name is Barbara Bach, and I live at 2061 Day Street. I'm here to support your questioning of the impact for a new site for a train station and a parking structure on Fuller Park. I watched last month's PAC meeting and heard misgivings about giving this site to another purpose. I heard the questioning that you all involved yourselves in. I also heard the line of thinking that it's already a parking lot. So whatever the plans are in the future to build here, there would be minimal impact to Fuller Park. I challenge that line of thinking. Where is the public policy on urban parks, river valley protection, future development plans for biking, hiking, and public amenities in this area of our river valley? Actually, this area needs your attention. I'd even say reclaim it and plant some trees. Our park system needs protection, and you have that opportunity to say no to further planning on this site for a new train station and parking structure. We have a current depot that can be improved for far less disturbance and could even enhance the Depot Street area. There's no good reason to pursue the site that you are being asked to pursue. When you analyze the Depot Street improvements list, I respectfully ask that you do not concur with the de minimis ruling regarding Fuller Park. Thank you.
Thanks for coming. Is there anyone else that wishes to speak? Welcome.
Good afternoon, thank you. My name's Scott Rosencrans. I live at 3051 Lakeview Drive, just less than a block up the street from the Dolph Park First Sister Lake Stormwater Remediation Project proposed site. I'm also a volunteer park steward at Dolph Park. I'm pretty new to the project, having only been involved for 9 years. Several of my neighbors have been involved for over 40 years trying to move this project forward, and we are delighted that there seems to be light at the end of the tunnel. If you're unfamiliar with the site, Dolph Park contains Ann Arbor's only natural lakes. They're glacial moraines, First Sister Lake and Second Sister Lake. The park contains 30 land acres, 30 lake acres, and 14 to 15 acre fen and swamp. It's the only publicly accessible natural lakes within an 8-mile radius. It's the only Ann Arbor park that provides a designated conservation area containing lakes. Former official city ornithologist, D. Armstrong, refers to it as one of the premier bird habitats in Washtenaw County. Indeed, 183 different distinct bird species have been identified there and entered into the famous Cornell University bird catalog. It has a full range of habitats for Michigan species due to the fact that it has lakes, streams, lands, you name it. The lake is a victim of poor stormwater management, specifically eutrophication, which is the process of a lake becoming a land area. It's a natural process, but what's been happening over decades is what we would expect to see over centuries. Increased nutrients are greatly increasing the process. Only 4 feet of water depth contains enough oxygen to support fish life during parts of the summer. It is degraded to that point. And in fact, it has 5 feet less in depth to support life than in 1994. Project supporters, and actually I don't know of any detractors, simply wish to reduce the human impact and slow down the process. So again, I'm here to speak in support of the project that I guess you'll be hearing an update on a little bit later on. Thank you.
Thanks for coming. Is there anyone else that wishes to speak? Seeing nobody, we're going to move on. Right, got that right. Item D, approval of minutes. You have attached to your packet and in the agenda that was circulated on linking to Legistar, the minutes for the meeting of September 19th, 2017. Changes, additions, and if not, motions?
Just a question, you know, I was, I think, possibly late past roll call, but I was here really for the meeting.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know.
Can we amend
It really
them?
matter.
Yeah, I can amend them.
We'll amend them. All right, that's one change. Any other?
I'll motion to approve.
Is there a
with that
with
change
that
of
amendment?
Alan being counted.
Is there a second? Michael? Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And I'm going to abstain because I wasn't here. Thank you. Moving on, item E, special presentations. E1, review of the 2017 outdoor pool season. I believe Josh is going to start us off.
Hello, everybody. Hope you guys are having a good day today. We are here to talk about this past summer at the outdoor pools. I've got a few people behind me that will be introducing themselves and talking about their facilities. So thank you very much.
Good Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Bill Meeks. I'm the Recreation Supervisor at Veterans Memorial Park Pool. I would like to talk today about our summer. This year got off to a better start than we did last year. As you may remember, we were closed for the first month due to some filter issues that took us a little longer to repair than expected, but we got off this summer to a good start thanks to the weather. All the pools really had a successful summer. For us specifically, we had about 450 total participants in our aquatics program, which consist of group swim lessons, private swim lessons, and our swim team, which was up quite a bit from last year. I think all of our activities really benefited from starting off the Memorial Day weekend like we should have. We had 18,355 pool admissions. Again, it was a very good summer weather-wise, so I think a lot of people took advantage of that. And our swim team finished first in their Section B. We have about 110 swimmers for our swim team, and stays pretty consistent in that number. It's the second year in a row that they've won that, so it's nice that not only are they getting the exercise, but really competing at a pretty high level. Staff highlight for this summer, Emily Caldwell, who served as my head lifeguard this year. Emily started in 2014 as just a lifeguard. I had that role for about 3 years. During the rink season, she also worked as an arena facility worker, which does a little bit of everything. They work concessions, they work at the front desk, very much customer service related. Got to know both sides of the operation, which I think is really beneficial to understanding how we work and what our goals are to be to serve our customers. This year, she was promoted to head lifeguard, which takes the role and responsibilities of scheduling all of the lifeguards, which there's about 30 of, and trying to keep track of 30 high school and college kids' schedules can be a bit of a tough responsibility. She also planned and led all the in-service training, which is the training we do with our lifeguards to go through routines of rescues, CPR, different scenarios like that. And also became an assistant manager at the end of the season when a couple of hours had to leave early for school. She'd really gained all that knowledge and responsibility to be able to be responsible for the entire operation. So it's really nice to see someone like this that worked their way up, stays around, gets that experience, and is able to step up when you need them to. Some of the recent improvements that we've done, we've got a new pool heater, and more filter work was done at the beginning of this season to get us started off. Also an autofill system, which keeps the water level consistent, so that we're not having to add or we never have to take water out. Nature does that for us, but keeps it at a consistent level so that it filters properly. And also added new lifeguard chairs to match those at Burr Park and at Fuller. Upcoming improvements that we'd like to see, hopefully we're starting next season, is a new pool liner. Also similar to Burr and Fuller the last couple of years. New filter and plumbing work, and concrete work around the pool deck. Highlight for this year, I wanted to focus on staff consistency. This photo of our staff at the end of the year, kind of staff get together, really shows how much they enjoyed their season here and being with each other. 26 out of approximately about 39 employees all had worked a previous season. 17 of those had worked at least 2 years. And it really, the consistency, and again, kind of going back to Emily, who had worked several seasons, the more they work there, the more they responsibility and experience they gather. It really makes my job easier. It makes the user experience easier. 3 of my managers this year, or the head guard as well, had worked their way up from either a cashier role or a lifeguard role in the past. So it's nice to see that someone puts the time in and continues to work their way up. However, the new staff that come in are always energetic. They bring new ideas. Even if they don't have experience from working at pools, they still come in wanting to learn. Kind of pushes some of the existing staff to step up, be leaders and mentors even. And that's it for me. Turn it over to Jason Nealis.
Hi, I'm Brittany Ruthven, and I'm speaking on behalf of Jason Nealis for Burr Park Pool. This past summer, they had 407 day camp counselors, or day campers, which was 300 up from 326 at 92% capacity. There are 60 swim team members, which is up from 50 from last season, 456 participants in group swim instruction, 1,500 pool admissions, and 280 private lessons given, which is up from 239 last season. Our staff highlight is Rebecca Greenberg. She's the future she was the assistant camp director. She's going to be moving up to be the head camp director next season. She's actually worked there for 5 years now as a camp counselor, a lifeguard, and swim instructor. She's very familiar with our staff and returning campers, which will help make a smooth transition next summer. Our past improvements this last summer was a new pool pump, locker and lobby rooms were repainted, a new filter for the wading pool, and repainted figures on the pool deck, which are Colin's favorite. They're these little creatures and like octopus and characters that he always comments when he comes to visit. And then next season, we're going to have an installation of new doors to the locker rooms, potentially front doors to the facility, new pool heater for the wading pool. Some of you might be familiar as the top pool, and then repainting of shade structures on the pool deck. The highlights of this past season was expanding the enrollment for the day camp from 30 campers to 4 each week. This was just for an increase in demand. We were always finding that we had people waitlisted, and so we were able to hire an extra camp counselor on each week just to be able to handle this increase. And then we also opened our Saturday mornings up to pool rentals to accommodate birthday parties and other rental groups. We previously had group lessons on Saturdays, and they would be at minimum capacity. And so we thought that by eliminating this, that this would be able to bring more revenue in on the weekends.
Hi, I am Gail Hearn, and I have the pleasure of running Fuller Pool during the summers. I've got some video stuff going on, but so really the highlights for Fuller this summer were the increase in our day camp numbers. We actually increased our capacity also from 35 to 50, and we ended up achieving 91% of our capacity, which is phenomenal. We have a great camp staff that helps make that happen. Probably for us, the most important thing that happened this summer were the increase in the hours that we had during the day to offer open swimming for our customers. And that really helped bring our numbers up for pool admissions up. As you can see, over 27,000 pool visits at Fuller, which is a lot of work for staff, but it's really phenomenal for that park space and to really utilize the benefit of the large pool that we have for the public. So my staff highlight is Katie Thompson, and Katie Thompson she actually has worked at Burr Park as well as Fuller and Mack Pool as well. I met Katie when she was 5 years old. She took swim lessons at Burr Park with me. I was her swim instructor, which makes me feel super old, but she has done everything in the park. She's been a cashier, she's been a lifeguard, a camp counselor, and now she is our day camp counselor and has been for 3 years, and she really does a phenomenal job. She has really improved the programming of our day camp, as well as really allowing special needs campers to really have a fulfilling experience in camp. We have campers that are kicked out of many other camps and not able to go to other camps that come to us, and we're able to accommodate and make opportunities for them to have fun and interact with other kids that they may not necessarily have the opportunity to do so. We work really closely with families to do that, and Katie, as an education major and teacher, she does a really great job at creating that environment and opportunity for kids, and so I think it's really important to highlight her experience. For us at Fuller, we got a little bit of a facelift, if you've driven by, a repaint of the facility, and it according to me, looks amazing, which has been really great. We also have really tried hard to bring some life into the bathrooms. Give 365 has painted some murals in the bathrooms, which, sometimes bathrooms get forgotten. They're places that people spend a lot of time in. So that's been really awesome. Some upcoming things, we are going to actually get some additional shade structures, which I'm sure our customers are going to be really excited about. We also are hoping to still get our sand sensory area, as well as a Gaga ball pit for both the public and our day camp. And that is going to be something that a Boy Scout is going to do as his Eagle Scout project, which is really exciting. So our highlight really is sort of everything new that happened at Fuller this summer, which was obviously the extended hours. So we were open 5 additional lap swim hours. So we started our lap swim at 7:30 in the morning and continued all the way through 8 p.m. So lots of times for folks to come lap swimming. We had a ton of positive feedback from customers regarding that, which obviously makes us really happy because that's why we're there. In addition, we also extended our season by 2 weeks, and that really was also a hit. We did not have the best weather, but really honestly, even though we did not have great weather, we had consistent swimmers. All of our program swimmers were really excited about that addition, and the last weekend that we were open really saved the day and told us that this experience for people was worth it. So things that we're looking forward to, some new special events, Mermaid Day at Fuller Pool. We're gonna look at maybe doing a full moon swim and a family camp out. So just some new programming opportunities to utilize the space.
Just wanted to take a moment to kind of summarize everything and also to thank the 3 people behind me as well as Jason Nealis, who isn't here. Brittany got to be a part of this presentation because twice this summer she filled in for supervisors and took a lot of time to manage Fuller at the beginning of the summer when Gail was out with her pregnancy, and then Jason was out for a little bit at the end of the season, and she's a real great asset to have to be able to support those. Gail obviously brings an awful lot to the table with her experience and passion and customer service. Bill was fortunate to have a good summer this year when it opened up, and so he was able to do a number of things to make the summer well for everybody. And Jason Nealis is a huge help with us mechanically, so just wanted to take a moment to thank all of them for all of their work this summer. Looking at some numbers, we had just under 2,000 season passes sold this summer, about 656 additional punch passes. So those are people who are committing to come on a regular basis. Those passes and those punches equated to about 20,000 membership scans over the course of the summer. Our new system is wonderful and it tracks it relatively easily if we look at the right place. But breaking that down, about 50% of them come to Fuller, and that is really kind of the consistent swimmers, the ones that are utilizing it for the 50-meter pool and getting in there regularly. But both beer and vets have about 4,500 regular users that come in. We provided a safe and enjoyable summer for over 900 kids this summer, which is up and is a great testament to all the other work that the pools are doing during their summer to add 40 or 50 kids to their pool that are there from 7:30 a.m. until 6 p.m. adds an awful lot to it. So, and in total, we had over 100,000 people visit our pools for the summer. And the way we come up with that is obviously the numbers of people that come in and daily passes and membership scans, but our swim lessons, and they come 6 times, and their parents come. We have rental groups, we have swim teams and swim events. All of those numbers add up to push us over 100,000 in a 3-month time. That's an awfully big number for people to come, and it's awfully busy when the weather's nice. As you're aware, back in February, we started a new software management system, Rec 1, and I would love to sit here and say everything has been wonderful since February 1, but the reality is for the majority of our users on the outside, it's been very positive. We have been very happy with what the system does. We find kinks on a regular basis. However, we continue to work through them and work with a company that we feel excited to move forward with. Some of the highlights with that, it's a simpler process for both our staff to register people in-house as well as for people to register online. We actually had a staff member downstairs that came up and thanked Colin earlier this week for how easy it was to register their kid for programs. Staff have picked it up quite quickly. It's very intuitive, and so basic needs are met pretty quickly and efficiently, but especially during the summer. Reporting and tracking, much easier for us to do than the system that we have. And one of the things that we really like is the ability to automate scheduled surveys to our program and past participants and get their feedback. It is something that we have done in the past, but we often have to tabulate the information and get back, and all of this is done automatically for us and real-time responses. That was very evident after the 2-week extension. We had an additional pass in which we sent out surveys to 66 people that bought passes for the extended time at Fuller. And of those 66, we had 32 people respond to that survey to provide some of this feedback that you're reading now. Many of those individuals also sent emails to Colin or Gail or myself or City Council, and just to reiterate the enjoyment that people had from that, for 66 people to reach out, or 32 of them to reach out twice, and for over 45 of them to reach out via email is testament to trying to do good things for our community, and I applaud the staff for constantly trying to find new ways to improve our existing facilities. So with that, thank you for your support and any questions.
Thank you all. Questions from Alan?
Let's see, well, one quick question is, with the extended season, did that bring up logistic issues like staff who went off to college? Was it still nonetheless worth it?
It was worth it. First of all, it was worth it because our customers have been so amazing to us, and they have been so supportive. So on those days when we were a little short-staffed, they were there cheering us on and saying thank you all the time, which has been great. It is a staffing challenge to have Mac Pool and Fuller Pool both open at the same time. I run both facilities. We do lose a lot of students to college, so there were days when I would lifeguard for 4 hours. But I think at the end of the day, knowing what we know now and working hard to plan and try to hire people that are available during those times and sort of just adjust the way that we do things now that we've done it one time, I think you learn, right, a better system every time you go through it. So I definitely think it's something that we absolutely want to continue, and we'll be smarter as we move through the process for sure.
And I have another question, and this relates, and Bill, I'm not throwing you under the bus here, but there are some plumbing issues that I've noticed at veterans' locker rooms. And is there a maintenance plan for that? I understand that, things don't get fixed immediately, and you can have old equipment that's hard to maintain and things like that. But I'm just really looking at it really from a broader programmatic point of view. Any thoughts about that? And you know what the problems are just as well as I do, so.
Yeah, and as I said, the root of the problem is behind walls, and I'm not sure if we're at a point that's something that'll probably have to be talked with Public Works and Park Ops. At what point do we start tearing down walls to access some of this plumbing? I've had plumbers, and we've had the conversation about the urinals in locker rooms 3 and 4, that plumbers don't want to touch it from the outside because they're afraid they could break it and can't access it without tearing down walls. So that's definitely a discussion that will need to be taken further and a bigger plan put together. We take care of what we can, from valves replacing to temperature control, things like that. But a lot of the problems are going to need to be started from the beginning, from where the water comes in and behind the walls that we can't see and access very easily.
Yeah, I just really wanted to shed some light on it because it can be difficult when you're just in a maintenance mode as opposed to, really a group like ours is supposed to look at, broader issues that are harder for individual managers to deal with. And so I just wanted to bring some attention to that. Really it's not a criticism. So.
I would add we are, actually, we meet at the conclusion of every pool season and before the beginning of the rink seasons, and we're aware of the fact that we need to do quite a lot in terms of upgrades to mechanical infrastructure. There'll be a resolution probably coming to you next month, if not the one after, about some of the improvements that we're going to make from last season to this.
Oh, that's great. Others, Ruth?
Yeah, I just want to thank you for extending the hours into the fall, even though I forgot about them. A lot of my friends didn't, and they really appreciated it. But I think that points to, now that you've deemed it a success, that we might think about how to promote that.
Others? Thank you all.
Thank you.
Moving on, item F, new business, F1. Resolution to recommend approval of the purchase of 2 Zambonis. Colin?
So we're going to move from the pools to the ice rather quickly here. This is to replace the 2 existing Zambonis. We have one at the ice rink for Beer Park and also one at Veterans Memorial Ice Arena. These pieces of equipment are both in the fleet fund. So over the last 9 to 10 years, we've been contributing to the fleet fund, so we have the funds available to buy the replacements. We're short about $6,000, but we can cover that through operating. So we learned in the process of preparing to buy these that there's a very long lead up to Zambonis. This would actually be for delivery in the fall of 2018. It's about a 9-month lead time if anybody is interested in getting a Zamboni. So that's about it.
Colin? Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, please, go ahead.
What is the current status of the Zambonis we have? I'm presuming they're just at the end of their useful life. But
Yeah, they are pretty much
Is
at the...
there any consideration to like maybe getting one now and then wait, you know, that kind of thing?
They're both at the stage where the amount of potential time that they're down and the extent of repairs that need to be conducted on them would not make that a very comfortable choice, I would say. Because another thing which is hard is if your Zamboni goes down, there's not an awful lot that you can loan or that you can rent out. Just as you can imagine, by kind of the cost of the machines, there's not many that you can get easily.
Alan?
As the ice hockey geek on pad here, I can certainly concur that replacing the Zambonis is necessary due to their age and things like that. And, you know, also to point out, there is really only one Zamboni operator. It's a trade name because no one else makes the darn things. So we are kind of stuck in terms of options. But the one question I had about the resolution is the plan to sell both Zambonis back, which would leave us with 2 Zambonis and 2 facilities, and you can't really operate the facility without a Zamboni. Has there been thought given to just retaining one of those as a backup? It seems sensible to me.
Yeah, I think that's an idea that we can certainly consider. I would say maybe at the end of this particular season, see which of the 2 is in kind of the better shape, if either, and perhaps keep that as a in case.
Yeah, I mean, because the resolution, I think, calls for selling.
So that's that. I was about to raise that. The last
Yeah.
resolve says sell them. So the question is whether we strike that clause, and I mean, I'm not sure that's necessary anyways. It's something that they either going to within the discretion of staff anyway.
Right.
Yeah, but I certainly think that's a idea worth considering. So thank you for that.
Do you want to make a motion to? Want to propose an amendment?
Well, it's not even, it's just a resolution we haven't even started with, right? So it couldn't, I mean.
Well,
yeah.
no,
I mean, I'll make a motion to strike the selling part from that, to make it mandatory.
Are you moving forward the proposed resolution?
Yes, moving forward with the proviso of striking.
Sans the last paragraph.
Yeah.
Right.
One of the things, the reason why it's in there is when we go to council, if we have equipment that we're actually looking either to put out to auction or to sell, that requires council approval to actually do that.
We could come back with.
But given how long it takes to buy a Zamboni, that could take, you could do that in a month or something, right?
So I have a motion on the table that puts forward the resolution minus the last paragraph that requires the sale. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Michael, further discussion on that? Bob?
Yeah, we could always bring back a motion to sell them or to sell one of them. But what do they sell for?
It's about 10K, I looked it up.
So we'd end up having to now then spring for 16,000 rather than 6,000 from the our general fund, right?
Yes.
Okay, I think we need to consider that. I mean, carefully.
would there be any interest in moving ahead with the language included, except that we change it to say one or both of, we would, or at least one of the Zambonis be sold or something, giving council that approval at this point? How do you feel about that? I don't know.
So that's
I think that's an excellent suggestion.
So do you want to withdraw your amendment?
I will withdraw my amendment.
Is that all right with you, Michael?
Second.
All right, so do you want it,
So that one, I don't know, so at least one Zamboni ice surfacing machine being replaced, be sold, et cetera.
okay. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Alan? Boy, everybody's just getting along tonight. Further discussion or questions for staff? Ruth?
I guess I just have a question. What's happened in the past one? I assume they've broken down in the past.
So at times in the past year, I think I'm looking at Josh to confirm, but we had a breakdown where we were able at that time to rent a Zamboni from the repair place for a period of time, but there are not many available, and if it had been out at another rink, we would have simply had no ice for a week.
Okay.
The other thing is that Bureau season is often shorter, so we also use Bureaus at vets when Bureau is not in session. So we've been fortunate the last 2 years to have kind of that timing. But yes, we do try to find one to rent. It's not very easy, but it definitely is something that we've done.
Okay.
Bob?
Where do we store the extra Zamboni?
That would most likely go out at vets. There's space in a couple of areas out by the rink that I think it could reside.
Okay.
Further questions or for staff or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the resolution as amendment?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Resolution carries as amended. Item F2, resolution to recommend approval of a contract with Aquatic Renovation Systems to install a PVC pool liner at vets. Colin?
So we go back to pools now from rinks. This is to replace the pool liner at vets, which if anybody has been swimming there in the last year or so, I think you'll know that it is needed. We did the replacement at Pure and Fuller 2 seasons ago. So this is really the same approach. We're actually going away from the traditional liner, which is Marsite, which is a cement product, which I can say from the years when I ran the pools, every year you're always having to deal with a certain amount of patching and kind of maintenance. And as it gets older, it also becomes more abrasive and less pleasant for users. We tried 2 years ago at Fuller and also Bure a pool liner, which is essentially PVC. And so we've had it in now for 2 full seasons. We've gotten really good reviews on it, and we really haven't had to do anything in terms of maintenance on it. So I would certainly like to move ahead with that for vets also.
Questions for staff or discussion or a motion?
Quick question.
Michael?
What was the historic annual repair cost for the method prior to the PVC liners?
Well, it would vary on the year and the age, but as you get closer to the end of it, it wouldn't be unusual to spend $5,000 to $10,000 every spring as a startup cost to do the spot patching. Although I would say this year, though, for vets, it is now past a stage of where you're going to be able to satisfactorily spot patch it.
Is the PVC surface, I know the Marsite gives you some abrasion that's not troubling when it's new. What about the PVC? Is it, I'm trying to remember, is that a slippery surface?
Well, I swim a little bit myself, so I can speak from my own experience. The first year that it was in, if you weren't used to it as a user, you would initially say it's more slippery, but it isn't to a point where you can't.
Okay.
And then as you get used to it now, it's pretty much
okay.
Is what it is, second nature.
Quick question. So the useful life is twice as long as the concrete product. How long is that approximately?
We would expect 15 to 20 years out of the PVC. For the Marsites, maybe 10. And the VETS one has been in for more than 10, I think about 11 or 12.
Is there a motion? Bob. Is there a second? Michael. Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Resolution carries. Moving on, unfinished business, item G1, update on the Sister Lake Stormwater Improvement Project. Jen Lawson? Welcome. There you are.
Hello all, how are you? I am here to give a brief presentation about the Sister Lakes construction project that's going to be moving forward. And I do want to say a special thank you to Mr. Rosenkrantz. He actually stole most of my thunder.
Thank you.
But in all honesty, Scott Rosenkrantz and Lenny Kafka have been instrumental and wonderful advocates for this project as we move forward. Brian Suzuki is handing out 2 items of interest for you. The first is the set of construction drawings. It's construction drawings, but it is a very detailed drawing package so you can see everything that we will be doing out of the Sister Lakes project. The second, which is a smaller in color rendering, is what the project will look like. And this is a rendering that would be about 2 or 3 years out, so it's not going to look like that right away. And this project is being installed at the end of a stormwater pipe that runs into Sister Lake, First Sister Lake, and it's essentially capturing the first flush of runoff from the entire neighborhood. So every cigarette butt, leaf, cold coffee cup that's dumped in the streets, we're going to be capturing before it enters into First Sister Lake. As Mr. Rosenkrantz had indicated previously, First Sister Lake is really an asset to our community. And recognizing that there is no stormwater treatment from this neighborhood, the project that we will be installing will be, in essence, making sure that all of that stormwater and the pollution that is in that stormwater will be captured in essentially a large rain garden, but I don't want to use the word rain garden, it's more of a bioswale, it's really big. The project will have, if you want to look, the second image, the project will have year-round color, year-round interest. The plants that were selected for this project both have a inherent wildlife benefit, both to critters as well as the bugs and bees. We did work with our landscape architect at ECT to make sure that we kind of covered all of those interests, if you will, as well as addressing the stormwater pollution requirements. So the big question of the night is, when are we going to build this? The bids are going to be, November? Still November? Okay, Brian's the project manager, so I was just double checking the dates with him. The bid will be out on the street in November. We're looking at November 15th. And then construction will be starting end of spring next year, looking for essential project completion, or almost 99% project completion in June, allowing for the summer for everything to grow in. Impact is going to be very minimal. There's going to be construction vehicles using the adjacent road for access, and not starting before 7 a.m. to make sure we don't impact too many of the residents in the area. It will be a project that we are really looking forward to. I know the residents are really looking forward to as well. There is also a public meeting that we'll be holding on Thursday, 2 days from now, at the dock at First Sister Lake, just to make sure that the residents have an idea of what's going on, the schedule for construction, and if there's any further questions. So with that, questions for you?
Alan? Question. You said that this would capture sounds like debris and pollutants, right?
Yes.
Is there a maintenance issue associated with that? And is that a park issue or is it a stormwater issue?
There's a maintenance opportunity with it, and it is stormwater. The Stormwater Public Works groups will be working to maintain this project. Because stormwater is funding this project is not coming out of any part of the park's budget because it is addressing a stormwater need. The maintenance has been identified in the Stormwater Public Works budget, so we'll be working both with park stewards, volunteers, as well as our own parks, Public Works stormwater staff, not park staff.
Okay.
Other questions?
Just briefly, did this end up being a two-basin design or a one-basin design?
Good question, Mike. It is a one-basin design. As you can see on the concept planting plan, there are 2 basins that were designed. This was an opportunistic design that our landscape architects took advantage of to say, there's more than just one opportunity to address stormwater from this neighborhood. That second pond to the south is not included in this bid package, and it will not be included in the construction. However, we do have that, so in the near or far future, if an Eagle Scout comes to us with an idea or looking for a project, we can certainly work with them on that as well.
Others?
That's something that would be easily added in then?
Not at this time. It would be in the future.
I know not now, but in the future.
Yep.
Others? Thanks for coming.
Thank you, guys.
Item G2, resolution to recommend Planning Commission and City Council initiate the process to adopt the Tree Line Allen Creek Urban Trail Master Plan. Connie Pulsifer?
Connie is here for questions,
Oh.
and this is just to remind all of you, this was information that came to you at the last meeting. There was a resolution attached, which today is for consideration.
Connie, come on up. Questions for Connie? Where's Colin?
I guess my question is, what does it mean to put it as part of the master plan? Does this mean that we are inexorably moving forward till completion, or is this a more modest step than that?
Well, it's an important step in the sense that when a project is listed in a master plan and part of the city master plan, it's considerably more well-equipped to access grant monies.
The other, I guess, related question is, as I recall what we saw, it wasn't chiseled into stone, but there were some options, some alternatives as different things materialize, maybe different routes would be pursued, or different cost, factors would come in. We're talking about bridging things or tunneling under things. And so what then becomes part of the master plan? Is it sort of the general concept, or is it a specific subset of those larger proposals?
Hi, I'm Connie Pulsifer, project manager from the Systems Planning Unit for this project. So to answer your directly, the master plan will include a preferred route, and it also will include near-term opportunities. Until things like bridges occur, things like intersections improvements can be made. But it's also a plan that recognizes that if additional routes come forward, then we can adapt the alignment to respond to other opportunities. So it's an opportunistic plan. We are looking at an aspirational plan. We're looking at this as the preferred vision for it, but the alignment could be modified.
Thank you. Alan? Would, by adopting this plan, change PAC priorities with things like our land acquisition committee?
I think that the criteria established for the land acquisition committee remain as they are. The fact that this could be an ask for land would be considered within the context of those different things that we score with. I would say that because it's in a master plan, that would help it there.
And just to be clear, at this point, the resolution would be a recommendation from us that the planning commission and city council initiate the process to adopt. So we're not even saying, got to adopt it, we're just saying start the process, right? As I understand, the process involves some public engagement and council hearings and the rest. Am I correct about that?
Right, so the approval process includes 2 steps. One is to go in front of Planning Commission, who will take action on adoption on November 8th. And then it would go on to City Council for their acceptance on December 18th. 2-step process. And there's 2 resolves in your packet. One is support of the master plan itself, and the second is to recommend that initiation occur.
Ruth?
Right, so we're not attaching, any time, like if there was going to be funds attached, it would come back to us. This is purely aspirational.
Yeah, that is correct. There's no commitment of parks funds at this moment.
Further questions or discussion or a motion?
Well, I just want to make a comment more than anything, and that is this has been a long time in coming, number one. Number two, I firmly believe that some of the land acquisition money that can be directed toward the city, toward inside the city limits, that this would be an appropriate use. This is not all park land that we're describing here. This is a different breed of thing. I mean, it's transportation and recreational. So I urge your passing of both.
Are you moving the resolution?
Well, now I'm going to move it.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Paige. Further discussion or questions? Hearing, Michael.
I'd just like to comment that I have struggled with this vote over the course of the past couple of weeks since we heard about it. I'm glad to hear that there are options for us to be able to support initiation of the plan without perhaps supporting the actual master plan as it sits. I feel like there are a lot of issues that come up with supporting this particular trail alignment, particularly around the university. I am reluctant to support a plan that cuts a large triangle out of the otherwise angular course that this greenway took at one time. Another thing is timing. I feel like we've got a lot of opportunities here as a Parks Commission to look at how the opening in the berm under the railroad tracks will affect trails and connection to the rest of downtown and the rest of parks. So to not take any more time, I'm just thankful that we will have an opportunity to promote the initiation of this without perhaps supporting the master plan as it is now presented to us, because I think that there are plenty of opportunities to be able to improve on that and to also see where this goes over time.
Others? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
Can you please, what are we voting on here?
The resolution.
Which one?
The resolution
One that's in the packet.
attached to your packet.
And there's 2 though, right?
There are 2.
That's what,
No, there's 2 whereases.
There's 2 whereases.
There's one resolution which has a number of whereases and 2 resolve clauses. The 2 resolve clauses make for one resolution.
Okay, thank you for
That
pointing
we
that out.
support it and that we recommend that they initiate the process.
Opposed.
Okay, so we've got 1 opposition, any abstentions? The resolution passes. Thank you.
Last time I asked
All right. Moving on. Item G3, resolution regarding the proposed Fuller Road Station. Eli Cooper. Welcome.
Good evening. I was just going to start off by saying good afternoon, but I think we're beyond.
Officially, I think it's evening, yes.
Thank you for the opportunity, and I'm going to make just a couple of brief comments and then be available for all questions. The purpose for the resolution before PAC is for the PAC to make a recommendation to City Council regarding proceeding with the rail station planning and design process. The formal environmental review process is one of a number of steps between conceptualizing or recognizing there's a need, conceptualizing how to address it, and ultimately getting to a construction project. So I just wanted to be clear that what we're here talking about is proceeding with the planning and design phase. We also acknowledge as staff that the PAC has an important role in its advisory body to council. And as the advisory body to council with regard to parks property, there is a particular instance that in the federal rules that if a property is within a park unit, but it is either declared eligible for a waiver or has such a minor effect as to be considered in a legal term is de minimis, that the federal government rules require that the owner of record provide a letter of support. And so the owner of record would be the city of Ann Arbor, and as an advisory body to council, we are looking for the action by PAC to make a recommendation to council. Ultimately, the decision of whether a letter is forwarded or not would be a council decision. The definition of whether or not the lands as they're situated today are eligible for de minimis determination, absent the requirement for a letter of the owner of the park, the FRA has put it forward as such. So we believe as staff that if the city is so inclined to execute a letter that says that we are supportive of advancing the planning for this project at this location, that would enable it to move forward. Presented the background of the report to you at your meeting 3-4 weeks ago. Since then, we've held a series of public meetings. In each round of public process, what we've had is a leadership advisory group, citizens working group, and open public forum on the document. Those meetings were all held last week, and we had good attendance. 2 of the 3 meetings were in this room. The other was in the juror assembly room. So far, we have about 40 written comments, and for those at home who are watching this, the record remains open through November 2nd at 5 p.m. Written comments are the appropriate and acceptable form of comment, and they should be forwarded to my attention, ecooper@a2gov.org. That's my email address. In a broader sense, because I really haven't gone through and analyzed all of the comments, but we've got about 3 dozen to 40. 2/3 of the comments to date support or acknowledge the need for a new station. So there's a third that I'm not going to say are anti a station, but are raising substantive issues like utilities, like traffic impacts. So there are concerns without articulating for or against. With regard to the 2/3 that we have received to date, breaks down about 50-50, a third and a third, identifying support for either a Depot Street alternative or the preferred alternative. So clearly the record remains open, but to date, as one would expect, there are voices on both sides of the issue. Did look a little closer to see, because of the park's involvement, out of the 36 to 40 comments that I reasoned, yesterday was 36, today it's 40, how many of the comments actually were specific to the use of parkland. And what I found was 9. Out of those 9, one was suggesting that there be, before a project would proceed on parkland, that there should be a swap of land elsewhere into the park system. There were 2 that were specific against, and there were 5 that were supportive of moving forward with the preferred alternative, acknowledging that it was within a park unit. So I'm not here to say that we've got to vote, and this is really a measure of what we've heard to date. This is a technical process. It's governed by federal rules that are promulgated, and that we have been adhering to those and will continue to do so. With that, I thank you for your attention and remain available to answer any questions that the commission members may have.
Questions, discussions? Stephen?
Just trying to grapple through this. It's a complicated topic. And so this might be a question, this may just be an articulation of what I think the question being posed to this group is. And so when I say something incorrectly, then that's when it became a question mark, and please correct me. We're looking at different alternatives for train station. If it's going to be on public land, on this public park, as I read that regulation, then it throws it into this question of whether or not, if there's no prudent, feasible alternatives and you're stuck with using the public land, then you go forward and you identify the lack of prudent and feasible alternatives. Here, it's not that. There are other alternatives. They may not be preferred, but they are not imprudent or unfeasible. So if we're still going to use the public land for this purpose, it requires a finding, one way or the other, of de minimis. If it's more than de minimis impact, then it follows some trail. I'm not exactly sure what that is, but we're at the fork of the road back here, and we're one of the groups that's tasked with making that assessment, right, in the initial instance, that whether or not we can help illuminate the question for city council, because we actually, as the city, own this parkland. So that's how I'm understanding what the question is. And so then de minimis impact, what is that, right? So I don't speak a whole lot of Latin, so I had to kind of look it up. And under the regulation, it says for parks, a de minimis impact is one that will not adversely affect the features, attributes, or activities of that park. Okay? And then they have some examples in there with regard to how that might look. If you're analyzing the use of a portion of a park, one of the examples they give is it going to take out all of the playground equipment versus a parking lot? And one might think that the parking lot would be easier to replace or have less of an impact on the overall use of the park. Whereas if the impact would be, say, on the playground structure, then that would be sort of more than de minimis. But the analysis doesn't stop there, because you also look at the overall sort of mitigation plan. As I understand how the rule reads, you could still make a finding that is de minimis, even if there are changes and alterations, if part of the overall plan reduces those impacts in such a way that the overall result is de minimis. Yes, we're going to do something, it's going to take out the playground equipment, but we're going to rebuild newer, better, different playground equipment in this other part of the park, so therefore overall the activities, features, attributes are not harmed. So that's what I understand the question posed to us is to look at the proposed preferred alternative, its impact on Fuller Park generally, but also on the specific portion of Fuller Park that's so impacted, and decide de minimis or greater than de minimis.
Is that a fair statement?
I believe it's generally correct. I too don't speak Latin, am not an attorney, but that's the general premise. What I would just add to that is, with regard to mitigation, it's the project has the opportunity to propose mitigation, and as part of your resolution, and as part of our presentation last week, we talked about the identification of parking to accommodate park users. That's mitigation. So those are the types of elements that have been included within the project as described in the preferred alternative to address those issues that we've heard from the community over the course of the past several years of this planning exercise.
Okay.
Others? Al?
Okay, question, comment also. I sort of view what we're doing here as has a fairly limited role. I mean, we're not in the process of deciding which of the locations exist. I feel like if the location of Fuller Park is chosen, then our question becomes whether or not we consider the effects to be de minimis. And based on what you're saying, I sort of look, you know, in my view of it, its context is important for that determination. And, you know, so part of me is, you know, the context is the existing uses, how it looks, the area. You know, I look at the that area as, you know, bounded by a couple roads, the railroad tracks, already used as parking structure. near a gigantic hospital. It's not prime, pristine parkland. I'm sure if we ranked it under our ranking criteria, that for park acquisitions, it would rank exceedingly low and we wouldn't want to acquire it. It's, sure, you can say Fuller Park's near the river, but not this part of Fuller Park. This is near roads and railroad tracks. And I think there's also a broader context that needs to be evaluated, which is that there's other changes that are proposed for the bike trails going underneath the roads and a rotary being put in, and also the broader context of the environmental benefits of promoting train travel and better transit options for people in the area. I mean, those things all, I think, are part of that context. So anyway, I've talked a lot.
Others? Bob?
Yeah, I had a question about the bike trails. I mean, the border-to-border trail, I would, and I don't remember if you presented something on that last month. I can't remember last month anymore.
In simple language, as I understand the border-to-border trail, it travels east-west along the Fuller Corridor, takes a jog to the north side of the roadway at Cedar Bend. So at the signalized intersection, there's signage, and that the border-to-border trail is actually across the street from the project site. Therefore, it is unaffected directly by this project.
Others?
Just adding to that, so would you agree or disagree with the statement that we heard earlier from some of the citizens that the border-to-border trail does not exist in that area yet?
I would,
I
would defer to Colin and the county parks in terms of their signage out there, and there are maps that clearly illustrate the existence of something, but I don't have the paperwork that says it is or it isn't.
Sure.
Eli is correct in saying that the border-to-border trail in this part is on the north side, so on the pool
So
side.
it is there, it's just on the other side of the street.
Yeah, and then the idea that has been spoken about is if the intersection at Fuller and Maiden Lane turns to a roundabout, that would be an opportunity to connect the border-to-border trail over to Riverside Park without having to cross Maiden Lane Bridge the way that it is actually.
Okay, thanks.
Others? Is there a motion? Mike?
I'll move to accept the resolution.
Is there a second? Bob, seconds. Further discussion?
I'm going to oppose it.
Okay.
I
You wanna
don't.
speak before the vote?
Yeah.
Please.
I don't really think that it is de minimis impact, and I feel like it sets a problematic precedent. And since there are other alternatives, I think if I felt there were no other alternatives, then I might look at this differently. But I felt that there are other alternatives. I'm not convinced this is the best alternative, even if it weren't parkland. But given that it is parkland, I don't believe it has a de minimis impact, and I do not want to. I don't want to create a situation where every proposal comes up, we're being asked to give up parkland for other things. Last month I asked Colin, well, are there examples of when we've done things like this? And I think the example you came up with was the artisans market, but that's different because that's temporary. It's really not permanent. So, yeah, I'm going to oppose this.
So just I'm going to respond to that for a second. My understanding is that the resolution doesn't ask us to decide between alternatives. And indeed, I would be hesitant to substitute my judgment for the thousands of person hours of work by experts in the field in saying this is the preferred alternative. My understanding of this resolution is if it goes forward with this alternative, do we support the basic, building a parking lot, building a parking structure and a train station on something that my understanding is will always have to be a parking lot to support the park use across the road. And it's on that basis that I'm going to support this. Colin?
I would only respond just about the artisan market. I want to be clear. I was probably not particularly clear last month. On the days at the farmer's market, we have the farmer's market Wednesday and Saturday and the artisan market on Sunday. And I think I suppose the example that I was giving is the rest of the days of the week, the Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, that space in that park is essentially used as a parking lot through the DDA.
Right, yeah. Sorry, I don't think I was that clear either, but David, I don't know that that space will always have to be used as a parking lot.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's unknown.
I just want to say, I think it's unknown, and if that were really an issue, then I think maybe there'd be other ways to address it.
There might be. Everything's certainly played out into the future, unknowable, but my understanding of the parking needs for the park across the street is we need parking on the parcel that we're talking about, and that's how it's been serving for quite some time. Stephen?
I've got some misgivings about this still. I do appreciate that the plan incorporates some elements, or the proposed resolution, I guess, incorporates some elements to try to mitigate some of the impacts. And these are things I think we've discussed at the last meeting. And there were some of the points that were brought up by some of the public commenters in terms of parking for park use, trying to build some accommodation and to not lose that. And also, it is a revenue stream. I mean, we lease out that space to the university, right, for their use. And so that's not an insignificant part of our budget. So I appreciate that the resolution takes those considerations into effect. What I still have misgivings about is some of the other concerns that are raised in terms of the feel, the use, the view, the impact upon the other park users, the increased traffic that is attendant to that other use. And I'm also sympathetic to what Ruth just mentioned. I mean, now this creates a precedent, and it's hard to say no. I mean, if this isn't de minimis, you're putting a train station in a park. If that's not that's de minimis, okay, well, what can't you do to Parkland at that point? That's my, I guess, concern, is that this is, in my view, a relatively serious change, and it's hard for me to say, well, that's de minimis. I understand that it's not just that Latin word, it's in the context of these regulations that you apply it, and it's also in the context of the specific spot in the park that what you're doing. Mm-hmm. And so, I mean, this could be a game time decision for me whether I'm yay or nay, but I do have misgivings in assuming that this is a de minimis impact. Everything else even that's already being considered.
Alan?
I guess part of it for me is that I would have the hope and the expectation, really, that if this structure is built in this location, that structure would contain features that would make the park a better place. In whatever those reasons are, whether it's places to go to the bathroom or ways to get to the park that are different. A variety of facilities could exist that would make the park experience better. And so I don't look at it as, we build things on Parkland already. I mean, rinks, pools, we were just talking about them. And so it doesn't necessarily, and no structure is permanent, really, ultimately, when it comes down to it either. So I don't know that that's necessarily it's not abnormal to build things on parks, basically.
Lauren?
Could you expand a little bit, Helen, on what you were saying about the traffic mitigation? I know that that's a significant concern. And I agree with Alan that, just in terms of where I'm sensitive to your concern about the viewscape and the feeling of the park. and that this, would be there. But I think, a significant concern, as is everywhere in our city, is traffic calming, and so any sort of proposals about the roundabout and things like that, would you be able to remind us about those things?
Eli, perhaps you can help me on this,
Yeah.
but on the roundabout project, I'm not sure what year that's slated for right now. Are you?
It's in the CIP for 2020, the current CIP.
Okay.
So the impact of traffic, though, did you speak to that last?
I can speak to the impact of traffic and would refer the commissioners to both the discussion in the EA document itself starts on page 77, and I believe in the appendices, the entire traffic impact study engineering going all the way down to traffic counts. I believe it begins on page 330. There's a substantial volume of paperwork. Said simply, we are looking at this time, primarily an Amtrak intercity passenger rail station facility. It does have an accommodation for parks users, and there is a potential for someday in the future, a future expansion for commuter, but the traffic analysis that associates itself with Amtrak service revolves directly on the passengers that get off and on trains. And so although there is several hundred parking spaces, it's like an airport in terms of long-term parking. This is not parking that's going to empty at 4 o'clock every day. It's 150 people coming and going off of each train at different times of the day, some during the peak period, some during the off-peak period. So yes, there will be traffic generated. The traffic report details that much greater than I'm going to go into. But I think if there are concerns about the traffic generated by this enormous parking structure, yes, if it was employment related directly to a large employer, like a hospital that has shift changes, and you had 1,000 cars emptying out, you'd have an issue. But this is really not designed or sized for that role, and that the traffic that's going to come and go as trains come and go is the real traffic generation. In the future, so I can be clear, if in fact there is to be commuter service runs during the peak periods primarily, and what'll happen is you'll have half-hour headways, so you'll have 3 or 4 trains in the peak period, and and the sum total of parking that's being provided for commuter is a couple hundred spaces. So you divide that by 3 or 4 trains, what you'll find is 50 or 60 people might be coming at 7 a.m., 50 or 60 people coming at 7:30, 50 or 60 at 8. Similarly, 5, 6 o'clock p.m., they will be exiting as they would come back to the station. So I'm not here to say that's not traffic. These are trips that are currently not there, but it is not the equivalent of emptying out a 1,300 car parking structure in one fell swoop.
The other, let me add, just as a resident, having lived for 15 years, 500 yards from the current train station in Depot Street, again, I don't want to substitute my judgment, but I can offer my experience is traffic's a problem, right? Depot Street is a parking lot every weekday of the week. There's significant traffic that filters up the hill. So again, the experts have, apparently weighed in here. But I think when you're talking about traffic, to me, it's a push because you've got, and it sounds like from what I read, that in fact traffic can be better and more economically accommodated in the proposed Fuller Road site. So I'm not that concerned about the traffic given the options and the tight quarters down there in the current train station. I'm also not that concerned about the environmental impact because to the extent it generates more traffic down there, the traffic's going to be there anyways. And the two sites are, what, a half mile, a quarter mile apart from each other. The Depot site is, right up next to the river. There's going to be increased traffic. There's going to be increased environmental impacts, but it's the same, and it's in the same neighborhood, so I'm not really that concerned about it. Lauren?
Sure, and just to agree with that point, it seems that the report that we read came to the conclusion that the environmental impact of this preferred location is significantly less.
That's right.
Than at the Depot Street, than either of the other. Is that correct? Yeah.
Yeah, and that's an opinion that I don't have the ability or the expertise to disagree with.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah, and again, I don't even want to talk about the other locations. It's only if this
Right,
location is
that's right.
chosen. And so all those other factors that make that determination are, you know, I don't even think worth, I mean, they're not really part of our decision process.
Further
I
discussion.
feel.
Colin?
One of the things that I would add to the traffic question is, while the border-to-border trail is on the north side of Fuller Road, there is a shared use path on the south side of the road
Right.
there that gets a heavy amount of use.
Yes.
And that is on Parkland. So while it's not the border-to-border trail, it's still active. And, you know, I would think that this would be an opportunity, if this moves ahead, that the design strongly consider how the existing pathway can be either reconfigured to be safer or expanded upon to be better. I think that to me, would be something kind of impacts purview that could be a recommendation.
Others? Paige?
Could we add a resolved clause addressing, considering improvements to trails and pathways?
It's in there.
It's in there. I think it is.
And is that a change in the resolution since the last time we saw it? Because it seemed like that was
Oh,
more
never mind.
noticeable this time than last time.
Is that?
Integration of active transportation systems, including bicycling and walking elements, is a fundamental component of meeting both park and intercity.
So I would simply say that's more of a general statement than a recommendation that the design incorporated specifically in that area.
So we could add just those words to the end of the second.
I think it's worth having stronger language.
All right, so you want to add it? Perhaps that to the end of the second resolved?
To the end of the second resolve clause.
How would it read then?
Supports integration of active transportation systems, including bicycling and walking elements, as a fundamental component of meeting both park and intercity rail passenger needs, comma. You could,
Which one are you on?
the second resolved clause. You could say in that the design of any structure in Fuller Park for a transit station accommodate those needs. I'm spitballing here. Is that good? So that, we'll take that as a friendly amendment. Is there a second, is there a support for that amendment? Second. Bob, further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the resolution as amended, say aye. Aye. Opposed?
No.
Nay.
Abstentions? The resolution carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on. Item H, is there any commission proposed business? Seeing none. Item I, I understand there's no report from the, we've got a brief report from the Parks and Rec manager. Colin.
There's just one small thing that I wanted to share. Over the weekend, we had the trick-or-treat paddle, which I believe you guys know about. If you remember what the weather was like on Sunday, it was cold, wet, raining, and temperatures dropping. But to me, it's a very good example of when you have a high-quality program and high-quality staff, you're still able to attract people to a park at a time when they might not otherwise consider using it. We had 145 boats and over 500 people. get
Whoa.
that
That's
wow.
incredible.
So the staff of the canoe liveries and also Give 365.
Wow.
Awfully nice job.
Great. Item J, is there a report from the Rec Advisory Commission?
Nothing major to support. To report, except that last year, as a fundraiser for Reckonet, they did a Rick's Run for Kids, and this year they're not going to do that. However, they are selling tickets to the Detroit Pistons playing the Golden State Warriors as a fundraiser, really great tickets in December, if anyone's interested.
Thank you. Second public commentary. Is there any member of the public who'd like to speak? Seeing none. We do. I didn't. I thought you were leaving. Welcome back.
I thought I was leaving too. I decided to come very quickly. First off, just in terms of the vote that was taken, I do, needless to say, I'm a little disappointed in terms of the result, but so be it. Just a couple remarks just in terms of errata. First off, to Commissioner Jackson. Yes, there are buildings on parks, but those buildings are dedicated to park use. Specifically, the Fuller Pool facility is a park facility. What we are proposed here is when you talk about the construction of a structure at Fuller Park, is construction of a train station, which is not necessarily park use, although may have been defined differently under the zoning rules. But more importantly, it kind of puts the camel's nose under the tent in terms of a large parking structure to aid the university. Whether that's desirable or not, that's another thing. But it is a precedent. And when you needed to consider the vote, you did need to consider that there are alternatives that were about. So again, moving forward, you're constantly going to be, as commissioners, having a suggestion to let's repurpose the land here, purpose the land there. It may vary once every 5 years, every 10 years, but it's there. And future commissions are going to look at the decisions you make in terms of repurposing and say, all right, we have this precedent here. That's very important moving forward. I guess that's my outstanding comment for the day, but otherwise, thank you for your time. And Commissioner David, I'm trying to pronounce your last name.
Don't bother. I can't yet.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak before you.
Thanks for coming. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak? Okay, now seeing nobody, we stand adjourned. Thank you, everybody, for coming.